A horse walks into the police station, and what it hands to the officers reveals something that left all the police completely shocked. The morning in Pine Grove began like any other, wrapped in the mist descending from the mountains and mingling with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee emanating from the small wooden houses. Sheriff Alex Russell stirred his coffee in the station while observing the town wake up through the window, a ritual he had repeated for the last 15 years of service. The station building, a colonial construction with white walls and red tiles, stood in the main square surrounded by century-old jacaranda trees that speckled the ground with their purple flowers. The tranquility of the morning was interrupted by the sudden sound of hooves striking against the cobblestone street. "Did you hear that, Thompson?" Alex asked his partner, who was organizing papers at the adjacent desk. Before Thompson could respond, the wooden doors of the station burst open. An imposing chestnut horse with shiny coat and dark mane burst into the office. Its eyes, a deep amber, seemed to contain an almost human intelligence. The animal stopped in the middle of the room, snorting softly, while the officers present observed the scene in amazement. A worn leather bag hung from the horse's neck, which detached and fell to the floor with a thud. The animal took a few steps back, as if giving space for someone to pick it up. Alex approached cautiously. Upon opening the bag, he found a hand-drawn map on yellowed paper, marked with strange symbols and a specific point in the heart of the forest surrounding Pine Grove. On the back of the map, a symbol caught his attention, a spiral intertwined with the figure of a tree, drawn with faded blue ink. "This symbol," Alex muttered, feeling his heart skip a beat. "It's the same one Emily, my sister, used to draw in her notebooks." The memory of Emily, his younger sister, hit him like a wave. She had disappeared 5 years ago under mysterious circumstances, leaving her husband Robert and their newborn baby, Luke. Robert had moved to a cabin in the woods shortly after, distancing himself from the town and its inhabitants, taking little Luke with him. "The point marked on the map," Alex continued, spreading the paper on his desk, "is near Robert's cabin. I haven't heard from him or Luke in weeks." The horse whinnied softly, as if confirming his suspicions, and headed towards the door, stopping to look back, in a clear invitation to follow it. "Thompson, I need you to take charge," Alex said as he grabbed his jacket. "That horse knows something, and I have a feeling it's related to Emily's disappearance." The sun was beginning to rise over the mountains when Alex mounted his horse to follow the mysterious messenger. The chestnut seemed to know the way perfectly, choosing almost invisible paths through the vegetation. As they rode, Alex noticed that the animal would occasionally stop, as if pointing out details of the environment. A tree marked with the same symbol from the map, stones placed in specific patterns, blue flowers that his sister used to collect. The vegetation became denser as they ventured deeper into the forest. The air filled with the scent of pine and damp earth, while sunbeams filtered through the branches, creating patterns of light and shadow on the moss-covered ground. Alex remembered the stories his grandmother used to tell about the forest and its guardians, legends that spoke of an ancient society that protected the secrets of the earth. The symbol on the map, according to her, was the mark of the Forest Guardians, a group that had existed since time immemorial. Emily was always fascinated with those stories, Alex thought. Could she have discovered something real behind the legends? The chestnut horse stopped abruptly in front of a group of intertwined trees that formed a natural arch. Beyond, barely visible among the vegetation, was Robert's cabin. The silence was absolute, interrupted only by the occasional bird song and the whisper of leaves moved by the wind. What Alex would find beyond that arch of trees would forever change his understanding of the forest, his family, and the secrets that Pine Grove had guarded for generations. The horse whinnied softly, as if encouraging him to continue, while the sun reached its zenith over the ancient forest that held so many mysteries. As he crossed the natural arch formed by the trees, Alex felt a change in the environment. The air became denser, loaded with aromas of wild herbs and wet earth. Robert's cabin stood before him, surrounded by a garden that surprisingly seemed meticulously cared for, despite the apparent absence of its inhabitants. "Robert?" Alex called, approaching the entrance. "Luke, is anyone home?" Only silence answered his calls. The chestnut horse moved to the side of the cabin, where a small improvised greenhouse housed dozens of the same blue flowers that Emily used to collect. Some pots had labels with his sister's handwriting, dated just a few weeks ago. "This can't be," Alex muttered, taking one of the labels. "Emily disappeared 5 years ago, but this handwriting—" The interior of the cabin revealed signs of a hasty departure. On the kitchen table, a half-finished breakfast and a still warm cup of tea suggested that Robert and Luke had been there that very morning. What caught Alex's attention most was the open notebook next to the cup, filled with drawings of the same symbol that appeared on the map, the spiral intertwined with the tree. As he examined the notebook, a sound from the second floor caught his attention. He climbed the stairs cautiously, following the sound to a room at the end of the hallway. The door was ajar, and as he pushed it open, Alex found himself in what appeared to be Robert's study. The walls were covered with ancient maps of the region, photographs of similar symbols found in different parts of the forest, and detailed notes on local legends. In the center of the room, a wooden desk held a peculiar crystal box containing a medallion with the same symbol as the map. "The Forest Guardians," Alex read on one of the documents pinned to the wall. "An ancestral society dedicated to protecting the secrets of the earth and maintaining the balance between the natural world and the human world." Among the papers, he found an unfinished letter written by Robert. "Dear Alex, if you're reading this, it means the messenger fulfilled its mission. Emily is alive. All this time she has been with the Guardians, learning their secrets, preparing for something important. She asked me to take care of Luke and keep her existence secret until it was safe to reveal the truth. But now we need your help. The ancient texts speak of a crucial moment approaching, a moment when the Guardians must—" The letter ended abruptly. Alex noticed that there were more pages scattered across the desk, some with symbols that seemed to form a code, others with maps marking specific places in the forest. The chestnut horse whinnied from outside, an urgent sound that made Alex look out the window. In the garden, the animal was pointing with its head towards a barely visible path that led into the densest part of the forest. Among the vegetation, Alex distinguished a blue flash, more of those mysterious flowers that his sister had so appreciated. A crystalline sound caught his attention. The medallion in the crystal box had begun to emit a soft, bluish glow, pulsing as if responding to some invisible signal. Alex carefully took it, feeling a slight tingling in his fingers as he touched it. "Emily always said the forest has its own guardians," Alex remembered as he pocketed the medallion. "That some are chosen to protect its secrets. I never imagined she could be one of them." Reviewing more documents, he found references to an ancient prophecy that spoke of a time when the Guardians would have to gather to protect the forest from an imminent threat. Robert's notes suggested that this moment was approaching, and that Emily played a fundamental role in the events to come. The sun was beginning to descend when Alex decided it was time to follow the path the horse had pointed out. Before leaving, he collected the notebook from the kitchen and some of the most relevant documents from the study. The medallion in his pocket pulsed with more intensity, as if recognizing the direction they were about to take. "Where are you leading us now?" Alex asked the horse as he mounted again. The animal responded with a soft whinny and began to advance along the path marked by the blue flowers, venturing into the oldest and most mysterious part of the forest, where the legends of the Guardians had been born generations ago. The path that Alex and the mysterious chestnut horse followed delved deeper into the heart of the forest. The blue flowers, which his sister Emily had studied so diligently, appeared at regular intervals as if they were signs deliberately left to mark the way. The medallion in Alex's pocket pulsed with greater intensity as they advanced. "It's as if the flowers formed a pattern," Alex muttered, observing how they grew in groups of 3, always oriented towards a specific direction. The horse whinnied softly, as if confirming his suspicions. The vegetation around them began to change subtly. The trees here were older, their trunks covered with phosphorescent moss that emitted a faint bluish glow. The air filled with unknown aromas, a mixture of wildflowers and aromatic herbs that Alex had never perceived before in his years as the town's guardian. During a pause to orient himself, Alex took out the notebook he had found in the cabin. As he leafed through it in more detail, he discovered that it not only contained drawings of the Guardian's symbol, but also detailed botanical descriptions of the blue flowers. "Caelestis luminaris," he read in his sister's neat handwriting. "A species unique to these mountains, visible only to those who have been chosen by the forest. Its petals shine with greater intensity during the full moon, and according to legends, they point the way to the sacred places of the Guardians. Between the pages of the notebook, he found a photograph that made him catch his breath. In it, Emily appeared smiling next to a group of people dressed in blue robes embroidered with the tree and spiral symbol. The image was dated just 3 months ago. "She was always close," Alex whispered, caressing the photograph with trembling fingers. "All these years, while we were looking for her in faraway places." The horse approached and gently nudged the page of the notebook where a detailed map of the region appeared. On it, Emily had marked several points that, when connected, formed the same spiral and tree symbol. "The power points," Alex read in the marginal notes. "Places where the forest's energy concentrates, allowing the Guardians to maintain the natural balance. The next equinox will be crucial for the renewal of the pact." A melodious sound interrupted his thoughts. Among the trees, small lights began to dance, similar to fireflies but of an intense blue color. The chestnut horse seemed restless, as if recognizing an important signal. Alex consulted the ancient pocket watch he had inherited from his father. "Sunset is approaching," he thought. According to Emily's notes, certain phenomena in the forest were only visible during the twilight hours. As they resumed their journey, the forest seemed to come alive around them. The blue lights followed them, illuminating the path that became increasingly intricate. The medallion in his pocket vibrated with such intensity that Alex decided to hang it around his neck, where it began to emit a soft musical hum. "The medallions are keys," he remembered reading in the notes. "They open doors that remain invisible to ordinary eyes." Suddenly, the horse stopped in front of an ancient oak, whose trunk was completely covered by phosphorescent moss. On its bark, barely visible, the symbol of the Guardians could be distinguished, carved centuries ago. Alex dismounted and approached the tree. As he did so, the blue lights converged around the medallion, creating a pattern of light that reflected on the bark. The carved symbol began to glow with the same intensity as the flowers. "Emily," he called softly, remembering his grandmother's stories about how the ancient Guardians communicated through the trees. "Are you trying to tell us something?" In response, a gentle breeze shook the oak's branches, causing what appeared to be a leaf to fall. As he picked it up, Alex discovered that it was a carefully folded message. "Dear brother, follow the flowers to the stone circle. The equinox approaches, and there are truths that must be revealed. Robert and Luke are safe with me. The forest has been protecting us all this time, preparing us for what is to come. Trust the messenger, he knows the way." The chestnut horse whinnied softly, as if confirming the words of the message. The blue lights began to move in a new direction, forming a luminous path between the trees. The sun was setting on the horizon, and with the arrival of night, the ancient forest revealed new mysteries that had remained hidden for generations. The blue lights danced in front of Alex and the chestnut horse, guiding them along an increasingly ancient path. As night fell over the forest, the phosphorescent moss on the trees created a spectacle of natural light that illuminated their way. The medallion on his chest pulsed with a rhythm that seemed to synchronize with the beating of his heart. After an hour of walking, the path widened, revealing a perfectly circular clearing surrounded by megalithic stones. Each monolith, at least 10 feet tall, was covered with symbols similar to that of the medallion, but with subtle variations that seemed to tell an ancient story. "The Circle of the Ancients," Alex whispered, remembering his grandmother's stories. "Emily and I used to play near here when we were children, but we could never find this place. It was as if it were hidden." The horse stopped at the entrance of the circle, while the blue lights fluttered around the stones, illuminating the symbols one by one. Alex dismounted and approached the nearest monolith, where the medallion began to vibrate more intensely. As he touched the surface of the stone, a familiar voice resonated in the air. "I knew you would find the way, brother." Alex turned quickly. Emily was there, standing in the center of the circle, wearing a blue robe with the Guardian symbol embroidered in silver threads. Her face, though 5 years older, maintained the same serene smile he remembered. "Emily." Alex took a step towards her, but stopped when he noticed that his sister's figure was partially translucent, as if it were a projection. "What's happening?" "It's a projection through the stones," Emily explained, her voice blending with the soft murmur of the forest. "The ancient Guardians created these circles as communication points, but we'll see each other in person soon, Alex. There's so much I need to explain to you." "Why did you disappear?" he asked, his voice broken with emotion. Why keep the secret for so long? Emily pointed to the symbols on the stones. Each symbol tells a part of our story. The Guardians have existed since the first tree took root in this land. We are protectors of the natural balance, custodians of secrets that the modern world has forgotten. As she spoke, the blue lights began to form images in the air, illustrating her story. 5 years ago, I discovered that I had been chosen. The blue flowers began to appear in my dreams, guiding me. The forest was calling me, Alex, and I had to answer that call. And Robert, Luke? Alex asked, remembering his brother-in-law and nephew. They're with me now, Emily smiled. Robert always knew about my connection with the Guardians. He helped me keep the secret while I prepared. And Luke, he too has been chosen. Children born under the blessing of the forest have a special gift. The lights formed the image of a small child playing with the same blue lights, laughing as they danced around him. Luke has been able to see the lights since he was born, Emily explained. He's part of the new generation of Guardians. The equinox, Alex remembered. You mentioned that something important is approaching. Emily nodded, her expression turning more serious. Every 100 years during the equinox, we Guardians must renew the pact with the forest. It's a ritual that maintains the balance and protects these sacred places. But this time is different. The signs indicate that the forest is awakening from a long sleep, and we need to gather all those who have been chosen. The medallion on Alex's chest shone intensely. Is that why you called me? He asked, touching the ancient symbol. You too were chosen, brother, Emily smiled. Since childhood you could see the lights, although you didn't remember it. The medallion recognizes you as one of us. We need your help for what's to come. Emily's image began to fade slowly. The messenger will guide you to the next point on the path, she said, pointing to the chestnut horse. Follow the blue flowers, Alex. We'll be waiting for you at the Sanctuary of the Ancients when the full moon reaches its highest point. Before disappearing completely, Emily added, And brother, thank you for never stopping looking for me. The stone circle fell silent, illuminated only by the soft glow of the moss and the dancing blue lights. The horse approached Alex, gently brushing his shoulder with its muzzle, as if offering comfort and encouragement to continue the journey. In the sky, the first stars began to shine, and a gentle breeze stirred the treetops, carrying with it the scent of blue flowers. The next point on the path awaited them, and with it, more secrets of the ancient forest to discover. The stars shone with unusual intensity as Alex and the chestnut horse moved away from the circle of the ancients. The encounter with Emily's projection had left Alex with a mix of emotions: relief at knowing his sister was safe, amazement at the revelations about the Guardians, and a growing curiosity about his own role in this ancient tradition. So I too can see the lights since childhood, Alex murmured, watching how the blue lights continued to dance around him. Now that Emily had mentioned it, fragments of memories began to emerge. Childhood nights, where mysterious lights illuminated his window. Moments in the forest, where he thought he saw flashes between the trees. The medallion pulsed with a new rhythm, softer but constant, as if recognizing these awakening memories. The horse guided them along a path that seemed to change with each step, where blue flowers sprouted spontaneously as they passed. Suddenly, the horse stopped next to an ancient weeping willow. Its branches, swayed by a non-existent breeze, seemed to form figures in the air. The medallion shone intensely, and Alex felt an inexplicable urge to touch the trunk of the tree. As he did so, a cascade of images flooded his mind. He saw his grandmother, younger, standing in this very place, wearing a tunic similar to Emily's. She was performing a ritual, her hands tracing symbols in the air while blue lights danced around her. "Grandma Mary," whispered Alex, finally understanding why she knew so many stories about the Guardians. "You were one of them too." As if responding to his realization, a branch of the willow moved, dropping an ancient leather-bound book. As he picked it up, Alex recognized his grandmother's handwriting. Diary of the Forest Guardians, Mary Isabella Thompson, Guardian of the Third Generation. With trembling hands, Alex opened the diary. The pages were filled with annotations, plant drawings, and detailed descriptions of rituals. One entry in particular caught his attention. The gift passes from generation to generation, but not always directly. Sometimes it skips, like seeds carried by the wind, finding fertile ground in unexpected places. I saw the gift in my granddaughter Emily from when she was little, and in Alex, my dear grandson, he also has the mark, though in a different way. While Emily can communicate with the forest, Alex has the gift of protection. The lights follow him, protect him, though he doesn't know it yet. Alex looked up from the diary, noticing for the first time how the blue lights formed a protective circle around him. The horse whinnied softly, as if confirming this revelation. Continuing to read, he found information about the equinox ritual. The Great Awakening occurs every 100 years. It is when the forest renews its vital energy, and the guardians must be present to maintain balance. Without this ritual, the connection between the natural world and the human world would weaken, and the gifts would be lost. But it is not just a ritual of renewal. It is also a moment of choice. The forest chooses new guardians, and the old ones pass their knowledge to the next generation. The following pages contained detailed instructions on the ritual, maps of sacred places, and lists of necessary preparations. On the last page, he found a note specifically addressed to him. "Dear Alex, if you are reading this, it means the time has come. The forest has called you, as it called Emily, as it called me. Your gift is special. You are a guardian protector, chosen to safeguard not only the forest, but also those who protect it. The medallion you now wear was once mine, and before that belonged to my grandmother. It will guide you to where you need to be. Trust the chestnut messenger. He is more than a simple horse. He is a spirit of the forest, a guide that appears only in the most important moments. He has been watching over our family for generations. The sanctuary of the ancients awaits you. Emily will need your gift to complete the ritual. Together, as siblings and as guardians, you will keep alive the legacy that our family has protected for generations. With love, your grandmother Mary." The blue lights shone more intensely, and the chestnut horse moved its head, pointing to a new path that opened between the trees. The night sky began to clear in the east, announcing the dawn of a new day. The time for the equinox ritual was approaching, and with it, the opportunity to finally reunite the family, divided by the secrets of the forest. Dawn painted the sky in shades of pink and gold, as Alex carefully closed the book where they had been recording the events of the past few days. The pages were filled with observations about the changes in the forest, drawings of new light patterns, and notes about the gifts that continued to develop in each of them. "It's fascinating," he commented, as a blue light danced over the freshly written pages. "Every day we discover something new. The forest is more alive than ever." Emily, who was returning from her morning patrol of the sanctuary boundaries, nodded in agreement. Her gift of communication had deepened, allowing her not only to sense disturbances in the forest's energy, but also to help restore balance when necessary. "The forest animals are coming closer," she reported. "This morning, a group of deer followed me for part of the route. They seem to want to show me new paths that are appearing." Liam played nearby, creating small spheres of light with his hands, a new aspect of his gift that he had recently discovered. Robert watched him while organizing herbs and flowers for the greenhouse they had begun to build next to the sanctuary. "Look!" Liam suddenly exclaimed, pointing to the sky. A familiar figure appeared among the trees, the spirit of the chestnut horse, which now occasionally manifested to guide new guardians who were beginning to arrive at the sanctuary. "Looks like we have visitors," Emily smiled, sensing the presence of other gifted ones approaching along the path marked by blue flowers. The sanctuary had become a meeting point for those awakening to their gifts. Entire families arrived, guided by the blue lights and the spirit of the horse, seeking guidance and understanding of their new abilities. "It's like an expanding circle," Alex reflected, remembering the message at the station that had started it all. "Each person who finds their gift is like a new light that ignites in the forest." Robert approached with a bouquet of freshly cut blue flowers. "The flowers are sprouting in new places every day," he commented. "It's as if the forest is extending its influence, reminding the world that magic never really left." Emily stood up, smoothing her guardian tunic. "It's time for the morning lesson," she announced, heading towards the teaching circle where new guardians learned to handle their gifts. Liam ran to join other heir children who gathered daily to practice together. Under the guidance of the elders, they learned to channel their natural connection with forest magic in constructive and harmonious ways. "Who would have imagined that that morning at the station would lead us to this?" Alex reflected, observing the sanctuary full of life and purpose. The spirit of the chestnut horse fully materialized, its amber eyes shining with ancient wisdom. It bowed its head to the family before heading towards the path to guide the new visitors. "Grandma Mary knew," Emily smiled, touching the medallion that Liam now wore. "She prepared the way for all of us, keeping the tradition alive until we were ready to discover it." Blue lights danced throughout the sanctuary, brighter and more numerous than ever. The forest thrived with renewed energy, and ancient magic flowed freely between worlds once again. The family had found their true purpose as guardians, protectors of a legacy that extended into the past and future alike. "Every ending is a new beginning," Alex murmured, remembering his grandmother's words as he watched the sun rise over their new world, a world where magic and reality danced together in perfect harmony. And so in the mountains above Pine Grove, the sanctuary of the Guardians shone as a beacon of hope and renewal, a reminder that the most powerful magic has always been in the bonds that unite us and in the ability to marvel at the mysteries that surround us. As the weeks passed, the sanctuary of the Guardians became a hub of activity and learning. New Guardians arrived daily, guided by the blue lights and the spirit of the chestnut horse. Emily, Alex, and Liam found themselves not only continuing to develop their own gifts, but also taking on the role of teachers and mentors. One crisp autumn morning, Alex stood at the edge of the sanctuary overlooking the valley below. The forest had changed dramatically since the Great Awakening. The trees seemed to glow with an inner light, and the blue flowers that once only grew in hidden glades now carpeted the forest floor. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Emily's voice came from behind him. She joined her brother, her guardian tunic rustling softly in the breeze. Alex nodded, his eyes scanning the horizon. "It's more than that. It's alive in a way I never understood before. I can feel every tree, every creature. It's like the whole forest is breathing with us." Emily smiled, understanding exactly what her brother meant. Her own gift of communication had expanded exponentially since the ritual. She could now not only speak with the spirits of the forest, but also sense the intricate web of life that connected everything. "Have you noticed how the new Guardians are adapting?" she asked. "It's as if the forest is actively helping them discover their gifts." As if on cue, a group of children ran past them, led by Liam. The young heir had taken to his role with enthusiasm, his natural ability to see and interact with the blue lights, making him an ideal guide for other children awakening to their gifts. "Aunt Emily! Uncle Alex!" Liam called out, his eyes shining with excitement. "We found something in the old grove. You have to come see." The siblings exchanged a glance before following the children. The old grove was a part of the forest that had always been special, even before the Great Awakening. Now it pulsed with an energy that was almost palpable. As they entered the grove, Alex and Emily gasped in unison. The ancient trees had rearranged themselves, forming a perfect circle around a shimmering pool of water that hadn't been there before. The surface of the pool rippled with images, glimpses of other forests, other sanctuaries around the world. "It's a seeing pool," Emily whispered in awe. "I've read about them in the old texts, but I never thought I'd actually see one." Liam approached the edge of the pool, his reflection shimmering and changing. "The lights say it's a gift from the forest," he said, his voice carrying a wisdom beyond his years. "A way for us to connect with other guardians and learn from each other." Alex felt a surge of protective energy emanate from his medallion. He realized that the grove had become a new sacred space, one that would need to be guarded carefully. "This changes everything," he said, his mind racing with the possibilities. "With this, we can coordinate with other sanctuaries, share knowledge, maybe even prevent threats before they arise." As they stood there, marveling at this new wonder, Robert's voice called out from the direction of the sanctuary. "Emily, Alex, we have visitors." They hurried back, Liam and the other children following close behind. At the entrance to the sanctuary stood a small group of people, led by a tall woman with silver hair and eyes that seemed to hold the depth of centuries. "Welcome to the Sanctuary of the Guardians," Emily greeted them, her voice carrying the authority of her role as communicator. The silver-haired woman stepped forward, a familiar medallion gleaming on her chest. "I am Sophia, Guardian of the Western Forests," she introduced herself. "We felt the ripples of your awakening across the world. The ancient magics are stirring, and not just here." Alex felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. "You mean there are other awakenings happening?" Sophia nodded gravely. Yes, but not all are as harmonious as yours. In some places the balance is tipping. We've come seeking your help and to share what we know. As they led the visitors into the sanctuary, Alex couldn't help but feel that they were standing on the brink of something much larger than they had initially realized. The Great Awakening wasn't just about their forest or their family, it was a global event that would shape the future of the world. That night, as the blue lights danced around the sanctuary and the stars shone brightly overhead, the Guardians gathered in the council chamber. The seeing pool had been carefully moved there, its surface now showing images from sanctuaries across the globe. Emily stood at the head of the circular table, her eyes scanning the faces of both new and experienced Guardians. "We stand at a crossroads," she began, her voice carrying the weight of her responsibility. "The magic is returning to the world, but with it comes great challenges. We must be ready." Alex felt the truth of her words resonate through his very being. As he looked around at the determined faces of his fellow Guardians, he knew that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. The adventure that had begun with a mysterious horse entering a small-town police station had grown into something far beyond anything they could have imagined. And as the meeting commenced, the forest itself seemed to lean in, listening and watching, ready to lend its ancient power to the Guardians who had sworn to protect it. The story of the Thompson family and the Sanctuary of the Guardians was far from over. In many ways, it was just beginning. As the council meeting progressed into the night, the gravity of the situation became increasingly clear. Sophia and the other visiting Guardians shared tales of forests awakening in chaotic ways, of ancient spirits long dormant suddenly surging with power, and of humans unprepared for the return of magic, reacting with fear and sometimes violence. "In the Amazon," a Guardian from Brazil reported, his face shimmering in the seeing pool, "the spirits of the rainforest are rising to defend against deforestation. It's causing panic among the locals and drawing unwanted attention from those who would exploit this power." Similar reports came in from around the world. In Japan, ancient mountain spirits were awakening, causing earthquakes as they stretched their long dormant powers. In Africa, savanna lands were unexpectedly blooming with life, confusing scientists and disrupting migration patterns. Alex listened intently, feeling the weight of responsibility grow with each report. His gift of protection seemed to resonate with the global nature of the challenge, expanding beyond the boundaries of their local forest. Emily, her face etched with concern, turned to Sophia. "How are we to address this on such a large scale? Our sanctuary is just one small part of a much larger world." Sophia's eyes gleamed with ancient wisdom. "That's precisely why we're here. The awakening has created a network, a web of magic that connects all the sacred places. Your sanctuary, with its newly formed seeing pool, is at a crucial junction of this web." Liam, who had been quietly observing from a corner, suddenly spoke up. "The lights are showing me something," he said, his young voice filled with wonder. All eyes turned to him as he approached the seeing pool. As Liam's hands hovered over the shimmering surface, the images began to shift and change. A map of the world appeared, crisscrossed with lines of blue light connecting various points, the sanctuaries and other places of power. "It's a map of the ley lines," Sophia breathed, her eyes wide with amazement. "I've never seen one so clear, so complete." Emily knelt beside her son, her voice gentle but urgent. "What else do you see, Liam?" The young heir's brow furrowed in concentration. "There are gaps, places where the lines should connect but don't. And there," he pointed to several spots on the map, "those are where the magic is out of balance. It's like a river overflowing its banks." Alex stepped closer, his protective instincts flaring. "Can we use this map to help stabilize these areas?" Sophia nodded slowly. "Yes, I believe we can, but it will require coordination on a scale we've never attempted before. We'll need to work together, all the sanctuaries, to channel and direct the flow of magic." Robert, who had been taking notes throughout the meeting, spoke up. "We'll need to train more Guardians, and quickly, not just in our traditional roles, but in new ways to handle this global magic." The council room buzzed with energy as plans began to form. Teams would be dispatched to the most critical areas, led by experienced Guardians and accompanied by heirs like Liam, who could see and interact with the ley lines directly. As the night wore on, Alex found himself standing once again at the edge of the sanctuary, looking out over the moonlit forest. The enormity of their task was daunting, but he felt a sense of purpose stronger than anything he'd known before. Emily joined him, her presence a comforting reminder of how far they'd come. "Quite a change from our quiet life in Pine Grove, isn't it?" she said with a small smile. Alex chuckled softly. "Sometimes I still expect to wake up in my old bed, thinking this was all some elaborate dream. But it's not," Emily said, her voice firm. "This is our reality now, Alex. We're part of something ancient and powerful, something that's been waiting for us our whole lives." As they stood there, the spirit of the chestnut horse appeared beside them, its form shimmering in the moonlight. It looked at them with its wise amber eyes, as if to say, "This is why I brought you here, this is your destiny." Alex felt a surge of gratitude towards the mystical creature that had set this journey in motion. He reached out to touch its shimmering mane, feeling a tingling sensation as his hand passed through the ethereal form. "Thank you," he whispered to the horse spirit. "For guiding us, for bringing our family back together?" The horse spirit bowed its head slightly, then turned its gaze towards the forest. New lights were appearing in the distance, blue pinpricks moving through the trees. "More are coming," Emily said, her voice filled with wonder. "The awakening is spreading." As if on cue, the sounds of the forest changed. The usual nighttime chorus of crickets and owls was joined by a new melody, a soft, ethereal humming that seemed to emanate from the trees themselves. The blue lights danced in rhythm with this new song of the forest. "The old magic is returning to the world," Robert observed, his arm around Emily's waist. "And we're at the heart of it." Luke, who had been quietly observing everything with wide-eyed wonder, suddenly spoke up. "The trees are happy," he said matter-of-factly. "They've been waiting a long time for this." Alex marveled at his nephew's easy acceptance of the magical world they now found themselves in. Children, it seemed, had a natural affinity for the extraordinary. "What happens now?" Alex asked, looking to his sister. As the communicator, Emily seemed to have a deeper understanding of their new roles. Emily closed her eyes for a moment, as if listening to a voice only she could hear. When she opened them again, they shimmered with an inner light. "We learn," she said simply. "We grow into our roles as guardians. And we prepare." "Prepare for what?" Robert asked, a hint of concern in his voice. "For the changes to come," Emily replied. "The reawakening of magic will not go unnoticed by the wider world. We must be ready to guide, to protect, and to maintain the balance between the magical and mundane." Alex felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. His role as a protector now extended far beyond the boundaries of their small town. He was a guardian of an ancient legacy, a keeper of secrets that could change the world. "We should return to the sanctuary," Emily suggested. "There's much to discuss and much to learn." As they made their way back through the forest, Alex noticed that the path seemed clearer now, marked by softly glowing blue flowers that hadn't been there before. The forest itself seemed more alive, more aware. He could almost feel it watching them, acknowledging them as its new protectors. Back at the sanctuary, they gathered in the circular room where they had prepared for the ritual. The crystals on the walls pulsed with a soft blue light, responding to their presence. Emily retrieved an ancient tome from a shelf, its leather cover adorned with the same spiral tree symbol that marked their medallions. "This is the Codex of the Guardians," she explained, setting it gently on the table. "It contains the collective wisdom of generations of Guardians. With the reawakening of magic, new pages are appearing, filled with knowledge we'll need in the days to come." Alex leaned in, fascinated by the book. As Emily opened it, he saw pages filled with intricate diagrams, descriptions of magical flora and fauna, and instructions for various rituals and spells. But most intriguingly, he saw blank pages at the end of the book, waiting to be filled with their own experiences and discoveries. "We're writing the next chapter," he realized aloud. Emily nodded. "Exactly. Our actions, our choices will shape the future of magic in this world. It's a tremendous responsibility, but also an incredible gift." Luke, who had been exploring the room, suddenly called out, "Look, the ball is doing something." They turned to see the young boy standing next to a pedestal they hadn't noticed before. On it sat a large crystal sphere about the size of a basketball. As they watched, misty shapes began to form within it. "The Orb of Visions," Emily breathed, approaching it with reverence. "I've read about this, but I never thought I'd see it active." The mist in the orb coalesced into recognizable shapes, a city skyline, people going about their daily lives but with subtle hints of magic. A businesswoman whose briefcase floated beside her, a street performer creating impossible shapes with colored smoke, a child chasing a butterfly made of pure light. "Is this the future?" Robert asked, his voice hushed. Emily nodded slowly. "A possible future. The reawakening of magic won't just affect us and the forest, it will gradually spread to the wider world. Our job will be to guide this process, to help people understand and responsibly use their newfound abilities." The image in the orb shifted, showing scenes of conflict. People afraid of those with magical abilities, others trying to exploit magic for personal gain. But it also showed moments of wonder and unity. Communities coming together to use magic for the common good, new forms of art and expression blossoming in a world infused with magical energy. "It won't be easy," Alex observed, his protective instincts already kicking in as he thought about the challenges ahead. "No," Emily agreed, "but it's necessary. The world is out of balance, Alex. The disconnect between humanity and nature, the loss of wonder and mystery in everyday life, these are symptoms of a deeper problem. The return of magic can help heal these rifts, but only if guided properly." Luke, who had been quietly watching the visions in the orb, spoke up. "We won't be alone though, right? There are other guardians out there." Emily smiled at her son's perceptiveness. "For that's right, sweetheart. Even now all around the world, others are awakening to their gifts. We'll need to find them, teach them, and work together to shepherd this new age of magic." As if in response to Luke's words, new images appeared in the orb. Other sanctuaries hidden in forests, mountains, and deserts across the globe. They saw other families, other guardians, going through their own awakenings and discoveries. Alex felt a surge of connection to these strangers, united by a common purpose. "How do we reach them?" he asked. Emily's eyes lit up with excitement. "The old ways are opening up again. Ley lines, ancient magical pathways that crisscross the earth, are reactivating. We can use them to communicate and even travel between sanctuaries." Robert, who had been quietly taking everything in, finally spoke. "This is all incredible, but what about our lives in town? Our jobs, our homes? Do we just disappear into the forest?" It was a sobering question, reminding them all of the mundane world they had left behind. The world that, until recently, had been their entire reality. Emily took her husband's hand, her expression softening. "We don't have to choose one world over the other, love. In fact, it's crucial that we don't. We're bridges now, between the magical and the mundane. We'll need to find a way to live in both worlds, to be the link that helps bring them into harmony." Alex nodded, thinking of his role as the town's sheriff. "We can be the eyes and ears in the regular world, helping to ease the transition as magic begins to manifest more openly." "Exactly," Emily agreed, "but for now we need to focus on our training. There's so much to learn, so much to prepare for." As if to emphasize her point, the crystals in the room pulsed brightly, and new symbols began to appear on the walls, ancient glyphs and diagrams detailing magical theories and practices. "Let's get started," Alex said, feeling a mix of excitement and trepidation. "The world is changing, and we need to be ready." As the first light of dawn began to filter through the crystals, casting rainbow patterns across the room, the family of guardians began their first official lesson. They were at the beginning of an incredible journey, one that would challenge them, change them, and ultimately shape the future of their world. Luke, his young face serious with concentration, created a small ball of blue light between his hands. "I think I'm getting the hang of this," he said proudly. Alex smiled at his nephew's progress. "You're a natural, kiddo, just like your mom." Emily beamed with pride, both at her son's aptitude and at the way her brother had so readily embraced his role as a guardian and mentor. She knew that the path ahead would be challenging, but looking at her family, Robert's steady presence, Alex's protective strength, and Luke's boundless potential, she felt a surge of hope. Together, they would face whatever the future held, guardians of a reawakening world where magic and reality danced in harmony once more. As the days passed, the sanctuary became a hive of activity. Alex, Emily, Robert, and Luke fell into a routine of study and practice, each working to develop their unique gifts while also learning the shared knowledge of the guardians. Alex found that his protective abilities extended beyond the physical realm. He could now sense disturbances in the magical energy of the forest, allowing him to locate and mend weak points in the barrier between worlds. It was challenging work, requiring intense concentration and a deep connection to the land. One morning, as Alex patrolled the boundaries of the sanctuary, he felt a subtle shift in the energy around him. A soft blue light appeared, coalescing into the form of his grandmother, Maria. "Grandma?" Alex whispered. Amazed at the clarity of the apparition, Maria smiled warmly. "Hello, my dear. I'm so proud of you, of all of you. You've taken to your roles as guardians even better than I had hoped." Alex felt a lump in his throat. "I wish you could have told us about all this while you were still with us." "I wanted to, believe me," Maria said, her form shimmering slightly. "But the time wasn't right. The forest needed to choose you on its own terms. And now here you are protecting the balance just as I once did. Do you have any advice?" Alex asked, eager for guidance from his experienced grandmother. Maria's eyes twinkled. "Trust in your instincts, Alex. Your gift as a protector goes beyond just creating barriers. You have the ability to heal, to mend rifts, not just in the physical world, but in the hearts and minds of people. As magic returns to the world, there will be fear and confusion. Your calm strength will be a beacon for those struggling to adapt." Alex nodded, taking in his grandmother's words. "I'll do my best, Grandma. I promise." "I know you will," Maria said, her form beginning to fade. "Remember, I'm always with you in the whisper of the leaves and the song of the forest. Trust in the magic, trust in each other, and all will be well." As Maria's spirit disappeared, Alex felt a renewed sense of purpose. He turned back towards the sanctuary, ready to share his experience with the others and continue his training with renewed vigor. Meanwhile, in the heart of the sanctuary, Emily was deep in communion with the forest. Her role as communicator allowed her to interpret the whispers of the trees, the murmurs of the streams, and the silent songs of the stones. Today, the forest was buzzing with excitement. "What is it?" Robert asked, noticing the look of wonder on his wife's face. Emily opened her eyes, a smile playing on her lips. "New guardians are awakening all over the world. The forest can feel it. It's like a 1,000 new stars blinking into existence." Luke, who had been practicing creating small illusions with his light magic, perked up at this news. "Does that mean we'll have new friends coming to learn with us?" Emily nodded. "Yes, sweetheart. In fact, the forest is telling me that we should prepare for visitors very soon. Families like ours, who have discovered their connection to the old magic and are seeking guidance." Robert's brow furrowed slightly. "Are we ready for that? We're still learning ourselves." "We'll learn together," Emily assured him. "That's how it's always been with the Guardians. We pass on what we know, and in teaching we deepen our own understanding." As if on cue, the crystal ball in the center of the room began to glow. Images formed within it, showing a family making their way through a forest much like their own, following a trail of blue flowers. "They're close," Emily said, excitement building in her voice. "We should prepare to welcome them." The next few hours were a flurry of activity. Robert and Luke worked on preparing guest quarters, using their growing magical abilities to create comfortable spaces within the living trees surrounding the sanctuary. Emily communed with the forest, ensuring that the path for the newcomers would be clear and welcoming. Alex returned from his patrol just as the sun was setting, casting a warm golden glow over the sanctuary. "I felt something change," he said as he joined the others. "Are we expecting company?" Emily nodded, her eyes shining with anticipation. "Yes, and not a moment too soon. There's so much happening in the world, Alex. The return of magic is accelerating faster than we anticipated. We are going to need all the help we can get to guide and protect those who are awakening to their gifts." As night fell, the forest came alive with twinkling blue lights. The spirit of the chestnut horse appeared at the edge of the clearing, nickering softly. Behind it, emerging from the shadows of the trees, came a family of 4. A mother, father, and 2 children, all looking around in wonder at the magical spectacle before them. Emily stepped forward, her communicator's robes shimmering in the magical light. "Welcome," she said warmly, "to the Sanctuary of the Guardians. We've been expecting you." The newcomer's eyes widened in a mix of relief and awe. The mother stepped forward, a pendant similar to their own glowing at her throat. We felt called here," she said hesitantly. "We've been experiencing strange things. Our children started seeing lights, and then we found we could do things we never thought possible. Alex moved to stand beside his sister, his protector's aura radiating a sense of safety and welcome. "You're in the right place," he assured them. "We're here to help you understand your gifts and learn how to use them responsibly." Luke, unable to contain his excitement, created a small display of dancing lights to entertain the newcomers' children, who gasped in delight. As the two families began to exchange introductions and experiences, Emily felt a surge of joy and purpose. This was just the beginning, she knew. More would come, seeking guidance and community in this new age of awakening magic. The sanctuary was growing, not just in size, but in purpose. It was becoming a beacon of hope and learning, a place where the old ways and the new could come together in harmony. As the night deepened and stories were shared around a magically kindled fire, Emily looked at the faces illuminated by its warm glow. She saw wonder, excitement, and yes, a little fear of the unknown, but mostly she saw hope. Hope for a world where magic and mundane could coexist, where the ancient wisdom of nature could help heal the wounds of the modern world. The journey ahead would be challenging, she knew, but looking at her family, at the new arrivals, and feeling the approving presence of the forest all around them, Emily felt ready to face whatever came next. The reawakening had begun, and with it, a new chapter in the history of the Guardians and the world itself. As the weeks passed, the sanctuary became a bustling center of learning and discovery. More families arrived, each with their own unique gifts and experiences to share. The once quiet forest clearing was now alive with the sounds of laughter, animated discussions, and the occasional magical mishap. Alex found himself taking on the role of not just protector, but also teacher. He worked with newcomers to help them understand and control their protective abilities, showing them how to create barriers, sense danger, and mend rifts in the magical fabric of the world. One afternoon, as he was demonstrating how to create a protective dome to a group of eager students, he noticed a young girl standing apart from the others, her face a mask of frustration. "What's troubling you, Sarah?" he asked, approaching her gently. The girl looked up at him, her eyes brimming with tears. "I can't do it," she said miserably. "Everyone else can make pretty lights and move things with their minds, but nothing happens when I try." Alex knelt down beside her, his voice kind. "Sarah, do you remember the story of the old oak tree?" She nodded hesitantly. "Remember how it looked so ordinary on the outside, but inside it was filled with magic that nourished the whole forest? Well, some gifts are like that. They're not flashy, but they're incredibly important." He took her hand and closed his eyes. "Now, I want you to close your eyes too. Don't try to do anything, just feel." As they stood there in silence, Alex reached out with his protector's senses. To his amazement, he felt a strong, steady pulse of energy emanating from the girl. It wasn't the forceful shield of a typical protector, but something different, something he'd never encountered before. "Sarah," he said softly, kneeling down to meet her eyes. "Can you tell me what you feel right now?" The girl looked up at him, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and wonder. "Everything feels alive," she whispered. "The trees, the grass, even the rocks. It's like they're all breathing together." Emily nodded, a gentle smile on her face. "You're sensing the life force of the forest, Sarah. It's a rare and precious gift." Alex stood up, his mind racing with possibilities. "A nurturer," he said, recalling ancient texts he'd studied in the sanctuary's library. "I thought they were just legends." "Nurturers are indeed rare," Emily confirmed. "They have the ability to sense and strengthen the life force in all living things. In the old days, they were vital in maintaining the health of the forests and the balance of nature." Sarah looked between them, her expression a mix of confusion and growing excitement. "Does this mean I'm special? Like you?" "Yes, Sarah," Alex said warmly. "You're very special, and we're here to help you understand and develop your gift." Just then, Robert approached, carrying a small wooden box. "I thought this might be useful," he said, opening the box to reveal a collection of seeds, each glowing faintly with its own inner light. "These are seeds from the rarest plants in the sanctuary," Emily explained. "Sarah, would you like to try something?" The girl nodded eagerly, her earlier fear replaced by curiosity. "Take one of the seeds," Emily instructed. "Hold it in your hand and close your eyes. Try to feel the life within it, just like you felt the life in the forest." Sarah picked up a tiny silvery seed. As she closed her eyes and cupped it in her hands, a soft glow began to emanate from between her fingers. The blue lights danced excitedly around her, as if sensing something extraordinary was about to happen. "Now," Emily continued, her voice soft and encouraging, "imagine that life growing stronger, reaching out." To everyone's amazement, a tiny sprout emerged from the seed, growing rapidly in Sarah's palm. Within moments, a delicate silver flower bloomed, its petals shimmering with an otherworldly light. Sarah opened her eyes and gasped in wonder. "I did that?" she whispered, staring at the flower in awe. "You did," Alex confirmed, his voice filled with warmth and pride. "You've awakened a power that hasn't been seen in generations." Emily knelt beside Sarah, gently taking her free hand. "This is just the beginning, Sarah. With time and practice, you'll be able to help heal sick plants, encourage growth in barren areas, and even communicate with the forest in ways that even we can't." The spirit of the chestnut horse approached, gently nuzzling Sarah's hair. The girl giggled, reaching up to pat its ethereal muzzle. "It seems our guide approves," Robert chuckled. Alex looked at his sister, a new understanding passing between them. "We need to adjust our training program," he said. "Sarah's gifts are unique. She'll need specialized guidance." Emily nodded in agreement. "We'll need to consult the ancient texts, see if we can find any records of past nurturers and their training methods." As they spoke, more blue lights began to gather around them, swirling in intricate patterns. It was as if the forest itself was celebrating the awakening of this rare gift. "Sarah," Alex said, turning back to the girl, "would you like to stay with us for a while? To learn more about your abilities and how to use them." Sarah's eyes lit up with excitement. "Can I, really?" Her parents, who had been watching the entire scene with a mixture of awe and apprehension, stepped forward. We don't want to lose our daughter," Sarah's mother said hesitantly. Emily smiled reassuringly. "You won't lose her. We're not here to take Sarah away, but to help her understand and control her gifts. You're welcome to stay as well, to be part of her journey." Sarah's father nodded slowly. "We've always known Sarah was special. If this is what she needs, then we're willing to give it a try." As the family embraced, the blue lights swirled around them, creating a protective cocoon of soft light. The chestnut spirit nickered softly, as if approving of the decision. Alex looked out over the moonlit forest, feeling a sense of purpose and excitement he hadn't experienced since the Great Awakening. The arrival of a nurturer was a sign of hope, a promise of new growth and healing for the world beyond the sanctuary's borders. "We should head back," he said finally. "There's much to prepare, and Dawn will be here soon." As they made their way back to the sanctuary, Sarah walked between her parents, the silver flower still cupped carefully in her hands. The blue lights danced around them, lighting their path through the ancient trees. Emily fell into step beside her brother. "Do you think this is why the forest has been so active lately?" she asked in a low voice. "Was it calling for a nurturer?" Alex considered this. "It's possible. The old stories say that the forest has its own wisdom, its own way of maintaining balance. Perhaps it sensed that the world was in need of healing. As they approached the sanctuary, they could see other guardians gathering, drawn by the surge of energy they had felt. Young Luke was among them, his eyes wide with excitement as he spotted the newcomers. "Uncle Alex, Aunt Emily," he called out, running to meet them. "What happened?" "The lights are going crazy." Alex ruffled his nephew's hair affectionately. "We've found someone very special, Luke. Someone who's going to help us take care of the forest in new ways." As Sarah and her family were welcomed into the sanctuary, Alex couldn't help but feel that they were on the cusp of something monumental. The awakening of a nurturer after so many generations was surely a sign of great changes to come. He looked up at the star-filled sky, feeling the pulse of the forest all around him. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he knew that the Guardians would face them together, guided by the ancient wisdom of the forest and the bright promise of new beginnings. The first light of dawn was just beginning to paint the eastern sky as the group entered the sanctuary. The blue lights that had guided their way now swirled excitedly around the central courtyard, as if announcing their arrival to the ancient stones themselves. Emily led Sarah and her parents to a cozy guest house near the main building. "You can rest here for now," she said warmly. "We'll have a proper welcome gathering once everyone's had some sleep." As the newcomers settled in, Alex made his way to the library, his mind racing with plans and possibilities. The vast room, with its towering shelves of ancient texts and scrolls, had become a second home to him since the Great Awakening. Now, more than ever, he felt the weight of the knowledge stored here. He ran his fingers along the spines of the books, searching for any mention of nurturers. Finally, on a high shelf rarely touched, he found a slim volume bound in pale green leather. The title, written in faded gold script, read, "The Way of the Nurturer, Wisdom from the Age of Growth." As Alex carefully opened the fragile book, a slip of paper fell out. He recognized his grandmother Maria's handwriting immediately. "To the one who finds this, the time of the nurturer's return is at hand. Look to the silver flower that blooms in moonlight. Guide with patience, for their power is gentle but vast." A chill ran down Alex's spine. How had his grandmother known? Had she foreseen this moment all those years ago? Lost in thought, he didn't notice Emily enter until she placed a hand on his shoulder. "You should get some rest too, brother," she said softly. "We have busy days ahead." Alex nodded, closing the book carefully. "I will. But first, there's something you need to see." He showed Emily the note from their grandmother. Her eyes widened as she read it. "She knew," Emily whispered. "All this time she was preparing us for this moment." "Not just us," Alex replied. "Look at the last line. She's giving instructions to whoever found this book. She must have known it would be needed someday." Emily sat down heavily in a nearby chair, her expression a mix of awe and determination. "We have a lot to learn, and quickly. Sarah will need guidance that we're not fully prepared to give." Alex nodded, his mind already formulating plans. "We'll start with the basics: meditation, energy sensing, the history of the Guardians. But we'll need to adapt our usual training methods. A nurturer's power is different from anything we've worked with before. We should contact the other sanctuaries," Emily suggested. "See if any of them have experience with nurturers, or if they've noticed any similar awakenings." "Good idea," Alex agreed, "and we'll need to prepare the other Guardians here. Sarah's arrival is going to change things for all of us." As they continued to discuss plans, the first rays of sunlight began to stream through the library's high windows. The blue lights, ever present since the Great Awakening, seemed to dance in the golden beams. Suddenly, Luke burst into the library, his eyes wide with excitement. "Uncle Alex, Aunt Emily, you have to come see." Without waiting for a response, the boy dashed back out. Alex and Emily exchanged a quick glance before hurrying after him. Luke led them to the central courtyard, where a small crowd of Guardians had already gathered. In the center, Sarah stood with her parents, looking both nervous and amazed. All around them, flowers were blooming. Not just the usual plants of the sanctuary, but new species that Alex had never seen before. Delicate blossoms in shades of silver, gold, and pale blue opened their petals to the morning sun. Vines with iridescent leaves climbed the ancient stones, and the very air seemed to shimmer with life. "She did this in her sleep," one of the elder Guardians whispered in awe. "The power of a nurturer. I never thought I'd live to see it." Sarah looked up as Alex and Emily approached. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "I didn't mean to. I was dreaming about a beautiful garden, and when I woke up..." Emily knelt beside the girl, her voice gentle and reassuring. "You have nothing to apologize for, Sarah. This is beautiful. You're helping the sanctuary bloom in ways we never imagined." Alex surveyed the courtyard, his protector's senses tingling with the surge of life energy all around them. He could feel the ancient stones of the sanctuary responding, as if waking from a long slumber. "This is just the beginning," he said, more to himself than anyone else. "The forest called for a nurturer, and now the real work begins." As the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting its warm light over the newly transformed courtyard, Alex felt a profound sense of hope and purpose. The path ahead would be challenging, but with Sarah's gift and the combined wisdom of the Guardians, he knew they were on the cusp of something truly extraordinary. The coming days would bring new discoveries, new challenges, and new wonders. But for now, in this moment of dawn's early light, surrounded by the miracle of new growth, Alex allowed himself to simply marvel at the endless possibilities that lay before them. In the weeks that followed Sarah's arrival, the sanctuary buzzed with an energy it hadn't seen since the Great Awakening. Guardians from all walks of life gathered to witness the young nurturer's training, eager to learn how her unique gifts might reshape their understanding of the forest's magic. Alex and Emily, with the help of the elder Guardians, developed a specialized training program for Sarah. They started with the basics: meditation techniques to help her focus her energy, lessons on the history of the Guardians, and gentle exercises to explore the extent of her abilities. One sunny morning, Alex led Sarah to a small, secluded garden within the sanctuary grounds. The area had been deliberately left untended, its soil dry and barren. "Today," Alex explained, kneeling beside a patch of empty earth, "we're going to try something new. Instead of working with seeds or existing plants, I want you to see if you can encourage growth from the soil itself." Sarah nodded, her face a mask of concentration as she placed her small hands on the ground. The blue lights that had become a constant presence around her swirled excitedly, as if anticipating what was to come. "Close your eyes," Alex instructed gently. "Feel the life force in the soil. It might seem dormant, but it's there, waiting. Imagine waking it up, coaxing it to grow." For several long moments, nothing seemed to happen. Then, almost imperceptibly at first, tiny green shoots began to emerge from the dry earth. They grew rapidly, unfurling leaves and reaching towards the sky. Within minutes, the barren patch had transformed into a lush garden of flowers and herbs, many of which Alex had never seen before. Sarah opened her eyes, gasping in delight at the transformation. "I did it!" she exclaimed, her face beaming with pride. "You certainly did," Alex agreed, unable to keep the awe from his voice. "Sarah, do you know what these plants are? Where did they come from?" The girl's brow furrowed in thought. "I'm not sure. I just felt what the soil needed, what kind of plants would be happy here. And they came." Alex made a mental note to consult with the botanists among the Guardians. If Sarah was capable of manifesting entirely new plant species, it could have profound implications for their work in restoring damaged ecosystems. As they made their way back to the main sanctuary buildings, Alex noticed Emily deep in conversation with Robert near the library entrance. From the serious expressions on their faces, he could tell something important was happening. "Sarah, why don't you go find Luke and the other young Guardians?" Alex suggested. "I'm sure they'd love to see what you grew in the garden." Once Sarah had run off, Alex approached his sister and brother-in-law. "What's going on?" he asked, noting the tension in Emily's posture. Emily handed him a letter, its seal bearing the mark of a distant sanctuary. "News from the Western Groves," she said grimly. "They're experiencing a blight unlike anything they've seen before. Entire sections of ancient forest are dying, and their guardians are powerless to stop it." Alex scanned the letter, his heart sinking as he read the details of the devastation. "Have they found the cause?" Robert shook his head. "Not yet, but they're asking for help. They've heard about Sarah, and they're hoping a nurturer might be able to heal the forest where other methods have failed." "She's so young," Alex protested, thinking of the girl who had only just begun to understand her own powers. "Are we really ready to send her into such a dangerous situation?" Emily placed a hand on her brother's arm. "We may not have a choice. If this blight spreads, it could threaten forests far beyond the Western Groves. Sarah might be our best hope of stopping it." Alex sighed, knowing his sister was right. "We'll need to prepare her, intensify her training, and we'll go with her, of course. A journey like this, it's not something she should face alone." As they discussed the logistics of the journey and how to break the news to Sarah and her parents, Alex couldn't shake a feeling of unease. The timing of Sarah's awakening as a nurturer, followed so closely by this unprecedented threat to the forests, seemed too coincidental. "There's something else," he said slowly, voicing the thought that had been nagging at him. "Do you remember Grandmother's note, the one I found with the book on nurturers?" Emily nodded. She seemed to know this was coming, but how could she have foreseen a blight in forests so far from here? "I don't think she did exactly," Alex mused. "But what if the forest itself knew? What if Sarah's awakening wasn't just a random event, but a response to a coming threat?" The implications of this idea hung heavy in the air between them. If the forest had such foresight, such agency, it meant their understanding of its nature was far more limited than they had realized. "We need to consult the oldest records," Robert said finally, breaking the thoughtful silence. "There might be accounts of similar events in the past, something that could guide us." As they turned to head into the library, a commotion from the courtyard caught their attention. Luke came running towards them, his eyes wide with a mix of excitement and concern. "Uncle Alex, Aunt Emily, you need to come quick," he panted. "It's Sarah. She's having some kind of vision." And the lights! I've never seen them act like this before. Without hesitation, the three adults rushed to follow Luke. As they approached the courtyard, they could see a crowd of guardians gathered in a circle, their faces a mix of awe and apprehension. In the center stood Sarah, her eyes closed and her hands outstretched. Around her, a swirling vortex of blue lights danced in intricate patterns, forming shapes and symbols that seemed to shift and change with each passing moment. The air thrummed with energy, and the very ground beneath their feet seemed to pulse in rhythm with Sarah's heartbeat. Alex pushed his way through the crowd, Emily and Robert close behind. As they reached the inner circle, Luke turned to them with wide eyes. "She's doing it, Mom," he exclaimed. "She's weaving the threads." Emily gasped as she recognized the ancient patterns forming in the air. "The tapestry of time," she whispered. "But that's impossible. No one has been able to manifest it in centuries." Alex watched in amazement as Sarah's fingers moved with fluid grace, seemingly plucking invisible strings from the air. With each movement, new strands of light appeared, weaving themselves into the complex design surrounding her. "What exactly is the tapestry of time?" Robert asked, his voice hushed with awe. Emily's eyes never left Sarah as she explained, "It's said to be a representation of all timelines, past, present, and future. The most powerful communicators could sometimes glimpse fragments of it, but to actually weave it, that's the stuff of legends." As they watched, the swirling lights began to coalesce into more distinct images. Alex saw flashes of the past, the first guardians establishing the sanctuary, his grandmother as a young woman performing rituals, Emily disappearing into the forest. But there were also glimpses of things he didn't recognize, futuristic cities with trees growing from skyscrapers, people using magic and technology in harmony, and vast networks of blue light connecting distant parts of the world. "She's not just seeing the tapestry," Luke said excitedly. "She's changing it." Indeed, as Sarah's hands moved, certain threads of light seemed to brighten or fade, altering the patterns of the images they saw. The future scenes shifted, some fading away entirely while others grew more vivid and detailed. Suddenly, Sarah's eyes snapped open. They glowed with an otherworldly blue light, and when she spoke, her voice echoed with power that seemed to come from somewhere beyond her. "The paths are clear," she intoned. "The choices we make now will shape the future of not just the Guardians, but of the entire world. The magic is returning, spreading beyond the ancient forests. We must guide it, nurture it, ensure it grows in harmony with the modern world." As she spoke, the tapestry of time pulsed with energy. Alex felt a surge through his protector's senses, and he instinctively threw up a shield around the gathering. To his surprise, the shield didn't just encompass the physical space, but seemed to stabilize the swirling energies of the tapestry itself. Emily stepped forward, her communicator's abilities allowing her to interpret more of what they were seeing. "The return of magic isn't just happening here," she said, her voice filled with wonder. "It's a global phenomenon, but it's fragile, easily corrupted if not properly guided." Sarah's gaze swept across the gathered guardians. "We stand at a crossroads. Our actions in the coming days and weeks will determine the course of history. We must be ready." With those words, the tapestry began to fade, the blue lights slowly dissipating until only a faint glow remained around Sarah. As the last of the energy dispersed, she swayed on her feet. Alex rushed forward to catch her before she could fall. "That was intense," Sarah murmured, her eyes returning to their normal color. She looked up at Alex with a mix of exhaustion and excitement. "Did you see it? Did you understand?" Alex nodded, still processing everything he had witnessed. "I think so. But what does it mean for us, for the Guardians?" Emily approached, placing a gentle hand on Sarah's shoulder. "It means our responsibilities have grown far beyond what we ever imagined. We're not just protectors of this forest anymore. We're guardians of a changing world." Luke tugged at his mother's sleeve. "Mom, the lights are saying something else. They're saying we need to prepare for visitors, important ones." Robert looked around nervously. "More new guardians?" Luke shook his head. "No, not guardians, leaders. People from the outside world who need to understand what's happening." The implications of this sank in for all of them. If magic was truly returning on a global scale, it wouldn't stay secret for long. They would need to find a way to introduce this new reality to the wider world, to guide and educate those who might fear or misuse the awakening powers. As the gathered guardians began to disperse, Talking excitedly among themselves about what they had witnessed, Alex helped Sarah to a nearby bench. He could feel the residual energy still flowing through her, like aftershocks from an earthquake. "How do you feel?" he asked gently. Sarah took a deep breath, her eyes still slightly unfocused. "Like I've seen the entire history of the world and its possible futures all at once. It's overwhelming, but also incredible." She looked up at him, a spark of determination in her eyes. "We have so much work to do, Alex. So much to prepare for." Emily joined them, her face serious. "Sarah's right. What she's done here today changes everything. We need to convene the council immediately. We need to start planning." As if in response to her words, a chorus of howls echoed from the forest. The spirit of the chestnut horse appeared at the edge of the courtyard, pawing at the ground urgently. "Looks like our preparations might need to start sooner than we thought," Alex said, his protector's instincts on high alert. "Something's coming." Emily nodded, her expression a mix of anticipation and concern. "Then we'd better be ready to meet it. Whatever or whoever it is, it's clear that the next chapter in the Guardian's story is about to begin." As the howls grew louder and the blue light swirled with increasing intensity, the Guardians of Pinewood Sanctuary prepared to face a world on the brink of magical awakening, armed with ancient wisdom and newfound power. The challenge ahead was daunting, but as they stood together, protector, communicator, heir, and weaver, they knew that they were ready to guide humanity into a new age of magic and wonder.